Here's a fun fact. Fun fact. The airline that my wife loves to fly on is American Airline. Every time we book a flight to go somewhere and I tell her what airline we're going on, she is always skeptical. She's like, man, why didn't you get American Airline? So today, when the when the military helicopter collided with the American Airline flight, it hit home. Especially since we just got back from 2 weeks in Jamaica and I did not book an American Airline flight for that trip. So we had a conversation about it, which solidifies what I said. American Airline is her favorite airline to travel on. If my wife would have it her way, it would be American Airlines for every trip, everywhere we go. With that said, the headline today says that there are no survivors expected after a mid-air collision between passenger jet and a Army helicopter. I don't know if y'all saw what Donald Trump, the president, put out this morning right after he said something along the lines of something is weird because the American Airline plane was flying well and it was in its authorized space to be there, and the military vessel kept getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to the American Airline flight. Why didn't somebody warn them? It was not foggy. Visibility was clear. There didn't seem to be any technical, mechanical issues with either craft. So what happened? Man, listen. One of those days. According to CNN, this is what we know so far. No survivors are likely. No one is believed to have survived the mid-air collision between the American Airline jet plane and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter last night in Washington, D.C. area. The fire chief said on Thursday morning. President Donald Trump is expected to address the tragedy and in a short order. Recovery operations, emergency authorities have switched to recovery efforts, if you know what that means. Emergency authorities have switched to recovery efforts after 28 bodies have so far been found. I saw one man crying this morning, showing his text messages between him and his wife, showing that his last 4 messages to her were not delivered. And he was saying he hopes they at least are able to pull her body from the water. At this point, you're looking for closure. At this point, you're looking to give your loved one a good burial, funeral, ceremony, dignified, so you can move on with life, right? The officials are confident that they will recover the bodies of those who were killed in this collision. The aircraft, which was flying from Wichita, Kansas, it was carrying a total of 64 people, while 3 soldiers were on board the helicopter. On the plane, there were several members of figure skating community. They were aboard the American Airline flight. They were returning from a developmental camp in Wichita. U.S. Figure Skating said the Skating Club of Boston named 6 victims, including Evgenia Shishkova and Vadim Novmov, the 1994 world champions in pairs. Wow. NTSB leading investigation. The National Transportation Safety Board is leading this investigation. American Airlines said that two pilots aboard Flight 5342, they were highly experienced in complex commercial flights, while Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that the military helicopter, was on an annual proficiency training flight. Wow. A military helicopter on an annual proficiency training flight ended up costing that many lives. That I For somebody who served in the military, I find this like really, really weird to take in. I hold the United States military at high regard. If you know, you know. If you served, you really know. Mistakes are not really tolerated. Forget not really. Mistakes are not tolerated. In civilian world, people can be like, oh, mistakes happen. In the military, no, my friend, mistakes don't happen. I mean, everything is done SOP and to precision. So for a mistake or a tragedy like this, at this magnitude, it's really, really hard to take in. President Donald Trump began Thursday's news briefing with a moment of silence for the victims and their families. Quote unquote, I'd like to request a moment of silence for the victims and their families, Donald Trump said, bowing his head. Trump is currently, at that time, was briefing the White House briefing room. Of course, they said the pilots, they were from the Army's 12th Aviation Battalion. They were highly experienced. Pilots from this unit regularly fly near the Reagan National Airport, and they are typically highly experienced navigating the complex airspace, former pilots in the unit have said. The low-level helicopter routes have been in operation for decades. That area is one of the busiest aviation operations centers in the country, if not in the world. I just want to know why. Why did they conduct, because for me this is a training, why did they conduct a training with civilians so close by? I mean, if that Black Hawk went down, right, and it was a training mission, we would have heard over the news that a military helicopter got into some difficulties, crashed into something, and we lost 3 service members. But instead, we're hearing that something went wrong with that military aircraft and we lost 64 civilians along with those 3 service members. What I'm trying to say is this. Conducting military operations, training anywhere near civilians is kind of like, oh man, what if something goes wrong? Then civilians become casualties just like we just saw. I don't know this to be something normal. They said the soldiers that were flying the Black Hawk on Wednesday were fairly experienced, and they were on this annual proficiency training flight. My condolences goes out. My condolences goes out. Family, friends. It is also said that roughly 100 government helicopter flights happen every day through the corridor where the crash happened. 100, including by Army, Marines, Navy, FBI, Department of Homeland Security, aircraft. Another former pilot of the unit has said to CNN. So this is a super busy airspace for streamer members. Steamfitter, union members among those who were killed in the collision. 4 steamfitter union members. Damn. We're heartbroken to confirm that 4 members of UA Steamfitters Local 602 were also among the victims of the American Airlines Flight 5342 crash yesterday. The United Association of Journeymen and Apprentices of the Plumbing and Pipe Fitting Industry of the United States and Canada said, again, no one is believed to have survived that crash. What's crazy is the FAA chief has stepped down, and they're saying that he has stepped down due to pressure from Musk, leaving vacancy during deadly crash. Mike Whitaker testifies as a Senate hearing back in the day. Mike Whitaker, who headed up the Federal Aviation Administration during the Biden administration, he stepped down ahead of the new administration, and the position has yet to be filled, leaving the aviation agency without a key leader during one of the deadliest aviation crashes in American history. In December, Mike Whitaker wrote to FAA workers that he would end his 5-year term on the day of the inauguration. Well, before the end of the term, he became administrator in October of 2023. So he was already out the door. He had notably clashed with SpaceX CEO Elon Musk and leader of the Department of Government Efficiency over the agency's oversight of rocket launches. Deputy Administrator Katie Thomas left January 10th. As well, a second key vacancy. Elon Musk called on Whitaker to resign in September after Whitaker had testified before Congress and faced tough questions about the agency's oversight of SpaceX. Now, according to FAA website, alongside the role of administrator and deputy administrator, the agency does not have an associate administrator of airports, an associate administrator of security and hazardous material safety. They don't have a chief counsel. They don't have an assistant administrator of communications. They don't have an assistant administrator of government and industry affairs. And they don't have an assistant administrator of policy or an international affairs and environment as the new administrator ramps up its leadership. Donald Trump also fired Transportation Security Administration Chief David Pekoski on his inauguration day. The agency still had not filled Pekoski's role of the deputy administrator role. The Department of Transportation only a couple days ago confirmed Sean Duffy to lead the agency that oversees the FAA. Duffy has been providing updates from the department and on the scene of Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. Wow. So people are asking, why didn't somebody do this? Why weren't they notified by that person? There was a huge shakeup. A lot of people left. And people were fired with this new incoming Trump administration. I'm not blaming this on anyone because I'm not an expert, but something tells me that the big old shakeup with all these key persons missing suddenly definitely caused a lapse in how things were ran before as a tight ship, which caused a mistake to happen, which cost lives. Let me read this part to you again. According to the FAA website, along the roles of administrator and deputy administrator, the agency does not have an associate administrator of airports, does not have an associate administrator for security and hazardous material safety, does not have chief counsel, does not have assistant administrator of communications, does not have assistant administrator of government and industry affairs, and assistant administrator of policy for policy, does not have international affairs and environment as the new administration ramps up its leadership. President Donald Trump also had fired the Transportation Security Administration chief, David Pekoski, on Inauguration Day. That would be January 20th, 2025. The agency still had not filled that Pekoski's role or the deputy administrator's role. The Department of Transportation only a couple of days ago just recently confirmed Sean Duffy to lead the agency that oversees the FAA. And this is according to the FAA website. Wow. Wow is all I can say. You know, as the authorities begin the process trying to get these bodies out of the water, let's pray that everybody is found so that their families can have some closure. This is super sad. And like I said before, I do believe that the fast-paced shakeup and the firing of the Transportation Security Administration Chief David Pekoski on Inauguration Day, along with all those other key administrators missing, and the disagreement between those who were there before and the incoming man of the moment, Donald Trump, has caused what we're seeing. Somehow it relates. Hey, that's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, keep these families in your prayers. Could have been any one of us and any one of our family members. And let's hope, for future sake, that all our airports and airspaces and those who are in charge in positions of roles of power concerning these areas and their safety, that everything runs smoothly and we don't ever see another tragedy like this again. Leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll catch you on the next video. I'm out. Peace.